Yeah, Shadow. What did you think of the latest episode?
Oh, you want me to go now? Oh, okay. Um,
Well, just kind of like your just general overall thoughts on the episode. Nothing too specific yet.
I I think this was a great episode. Personally, I really enjoyed pretty much almost every aspect of it. Um, I think Tom and Reese. So Tom as Aegon and Reese as Otto. I think were my two big standouts in terms of like acting performances. But just I think generally the acting was up a level. This episode, I think everyone kind of knocked it out of the park in their own unique ways. I think I really enjoyed the sort of dialogue scenes. I enjoyed Aegon firing Otto. I enjoyed um, Damon and Rhaenyra's little argument that they had, little lovers' quarrel, and yeah, I think I just really liked the sort of progression. I think the aftermath of Blood and Cheese was done really, really well. Um, and I think one thing I sort of noticed about House of the Dragon in particular is that um, they really do really great in between episodes, if you know what I mean. So, like, the episodes in between major events and stuff like that, I think are really often really well done. And this was another one I think that was really, I think the season did start a little bit slowly. We didn't really have much going on until the end of that episode, but then this episode, I think we had a ton happening. Even if it wasn't like hugely moving the overall plot forward, I think still, you had so many big moments and stuff like that, and I think this episode just felt like a massive like step up for me. That's my thoughts.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would say I definitely like this one better than the premiere. Um, Actually, I think it was maybe my overall favorite episode of the series so far. Acting wise, at least. Um, MD, what did you think about the episode?
Yeah, I thought it was an amazing episode. The pacing was great. Everything um with them doing such a build up towards, the dragons. They know that everybody wants to see the dragons and they're doing a good job, really teasing it, giving us glimpses here and there. And once they opened up that Pandora's box, all hell's gonna break loose. So I think this episode was great. Almost the last scene really pissed me off, as I'm sure it did everybody. And we're gonna get into that. But yeah, it was an amazing episode. I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, reminder for everybody, if you want to speak, just hit the hand icon on the bottom. And we could call you up. Looks like we have somebody. Let's get them up here. Welcome, Winnie.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
Good, thanks. How'd you enjoy episode 2?
I really loved it. It was definitely better than the first episode in my opinion. I felt like the acting was definitely on point this episode.
I think as well, like,
Who did
this
you
is the
think had the
first
game?
episode in quite a while from like any Game of Thrones content when the characters truly feel human.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the time recently we've been seeing the plot driving the characters, but like with the episode, like most recent episode, the characters, they all feel like they're acting on their own will, rather than the story being written in a way that is pushing them forward. Especially Otto and Helena. So much of
Yeah.
what their characters were doing that felt so real, and you can buy the characters thinking this way. It wasn't like a plot was pushing them forward to do this. It was their own minds doing this. Which I think we haven't seen in anything but Game of Thrones since honestly season 4. Like, we really haven't seen a character break down the same way that Otto broke down honestly since like Tyrion giving a speech in his trial. Like that's was really reminiscent to me of that, you know?
Yeah.
I agree. Atreides, is there anything you want to say?
I really enjoyed this episode. Like Minty said, it made us connect more with the characters that we'd only seen driven by plot points. But overall, I really enjoyed the episode.
So, are you Team Black or Team Green, Atreides?
I am Team Black.
Is there any way that you could be persuaded to go to the other side currently, or no? You're pretty set on that.
I'm kind
I have
of
a solution to that. I think get rid of everyone on Team Green except for Helena, and
yeah.
then she'll go to
Then I'll be there. I'll be there.
she'll go to the other side.
You know, Shadow. You know. I
Yeah.
love Helena. Helena's my favorite. So
Helena's definitely the best character on Team Green, in my opinion.
I'm Team
I
here for the
agree.
dragon fight.
I'll have that opinion.
All right, let's go ahead, Loretti, if you wanna. Let's move on to the next scene, and I don't think anyone else is raising their hand at the moment, so let's go ahead and move certain people off stage and see it on.
Yeah, I believe we'll get started. I believe we're waiting for Varking. Actually, I do see Varking. Varking has joined us in the audience.
Yep, I see him.
But yeah, so we're gonna start here while we get Varking up. So, episode 2, Rhaenyra the Cruel. It opens up with the aftermath of Blood and Cheese. We open with a bloody outfit being escorted through the halls, and the guards are ushering people out of the castle. Meanwhile, Aegon is going ham, and he destroys Viserys' Lego set. While this is going on, Aemond is walking around by himself. He appears to be looking for something. He reaches under a table and finds a coin. Then we get to the council, where Aegon is so upset and throwing a tantrum and demanding war. They come up with a plan, have a public showing of the body of Jaehaerys, despite some back and forth, and it's decided that Helena needs to be part of this as well. So yeah, just kind of quick bullet points for the opening of the episode there. By the way, is my mic coming in fine? Because I was having some problems last week.
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you.
you're all good.
Okay.
I think the bigger problem is can you hear everybody else? I think that's what we're gonna need to find out.
yeah. Can you hear everyone?
Right now I can, yes.
Perfect.
Who wants to get us started there, kind of with the opening of this episode, with the aftermath of Blood and Cheese there?
I can kick it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously we had sort of Aegon really having a really deep, like visceral emotional reaction, which is obviously to be expected. I think, his son has been killed, but I think it's interesting to sort of see Aegon's sort of like love for his son versus perhaps maybe disregard for his bastard children. I think, do we even know if he's like aware of his bastard children or not? I don't know, but it's interesting how he loves Jaehaerys and seems to like his daughter as well, but yet doesn't seem to pay any attention to his bastards at all. Maybe that probably reminds him of certain other bastard children, but we don't want to get into that. But yeah, no, I really liked sort of just Aegon's outburst. I think it was very human, very real. The acting was incredible in those scenes with Tom just breaking Viserys's Lego set, as you call it. I don't know if anybody saw, but Paddy Considine actually posted on Instagram the sort of he reposted a meme about Viserys sort of getting mad up in heaven and watching
Yeah.
Aegon destroying all of his hard work. But
And I think Tom shared
Tom
it as
replied.
well. Yeah.
Tom
Or
replied
yeah.
that he replied that it was shoddy workmanship. That's what he
Yeah.
replied. That,
I mean, everybody's sad to see that set go. It was so intricate and detailed, and now it's just all smashed to bits.
yeah, but I think it did sort of
It makes
symbolize
sense. Yeah.
the difference between Viserys and Aegon as both men and as kings. I think Viserys doesn't have that sort of animalistic rage inside him that Aegon has. I think Viserys was very much the type to sort of spend his time building a little model of Valyria and stuff like that. He was very much the type to like sort of spend his time reading books and not really thinking about how to run the country very much. And Aegon is kind of the same, but in a different way. I think while Viserys was sort of wrapped up in his history and his prophecies and stuff like that, Aegon is more concerned with enjoying life and stuff like that. And I think they're both shirking their duties, but in different ways. And I think it's interesting to sort of see that manifest through sort of Aegon's disdain for Viserys and trying to be a better king than him, but obviously failing miserably. But yeah. Besides that, the opening, really enjoyed just catching up with all of them. Like Helena as well really ripped my heart out at the beginning. There was another thing that was actually pointed out that I don't know if you guys picked up on, but actually Helena was making Jaehaerys's funeral shroud in episode 1. So she already knew that. Well, I mean, I think what's sort of implied is that she was making it without knowing that that was going to happen specifically to Jaehaerys. But I think she
Right.
knew something was going to happen that would require her to make a funeral shroud. And so I think that's probably explains why she reacted the way she did when Blood and Cheese happened. I think she maybe thought that it was inevitable and that there wasn't anything she could do about it and stuff, since she'd already kind of seen it in her visions and stuff like that. So that's just a food for thought, I guess.
Yeah, I actually didn't catch it or really pay attention to it during episode 1, but I saw it posted on a subreddit. So about about that she was making that during episode 1, so I thought that was pretty interesting. Looks like we have some new speakers up here. Getting pretty crowded up here. Let's get some other insights here. Has Ahmed or Cujo spoken yet? Or HX Nay?
I was gonna say I find it interesting that. Oh, sorry. You can go.
Yeah, go ahead. You
Okay.
spoke more to me.
I was gonna say I find it interesting that Aegon chose to target, I guess, all of his rage on the set that Viserys spent so much time building. I think he probably built up a lot of resentment for it, maybe even subconsciously, because his father spent more time working on that and building that than raising him and his siblings. I mean, except for Rhaenyra, I guess. He spent a lot of time on Rhaenyra, but he probably felt like a lot of like indirect like hatred for that object. And I found the scene really intense when he broke it. It felt like deeper than just a situation that was going on. It felt deeper than just punching a wall, you know? It felt like there was a lot of, I don't know,
I think as well,
like
it's
deep
like symbolic.
feelings for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's symbolic of the way how House Targaryen is going now. They're showing disregard for the past. You know, they don't care about Valyria anymore. They care about their own agenda. You know, their own kind of race towards the throne. You know, while Viserys was very much about preserving what the Valyrians
He was
were.
very
he was
mindful
talking
of the
about
past,
blade.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then Aegon is just focusing on his own pursuit towards the throne. You know, he doesn't care about the history.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about what they stand for. He just wants to see himself on the throne. So, I think the fact that he was breaking down Valyria, that was him showing, like, you know, things have changed now. And then also, I suppose, as well, the reason why he was so, like, upset for Jaehaerys, like, don't get me wrong, like, he's his kid and stuff like that, but I think in his own mind, because he was so neglected by his father, he saw Jaehaerys as a chance to right a wrong, you know? Like, to be the father that he never had, essentially. And the fact that that was stolen from him, that's why he's showing so much pain. And then I guess in
Yeah.
a way that what you were saying, like, that's why he's taking it out on the Valerian, like, kind of model that his dad built, because that's the biggest memory that he has of his dad in a way.
And also, it seemed like he was finding a little bit of happiness in being a better father than his father was for his son. And
Yeah,
then that was
exactly.
just taken away. It's like the only thing he had left was like trying to be a better dad than his dad was to him. And then that got
Mm.
taken away, and he just had to destroy that. Like, he just had to. He holds so much resentment for his father. I understand it. But like that's really
Yeah,
what resonated with me in that scene.
Let's see here. Cujo, welcome.
Hi. I'm Team Black, but watching his reaction almost made me feel bad for him, even if I hate him. But the acting was so on point. Like, I was almost sad for him.
Me too.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, I agree.
anybody on this panel right now Team Green?
I don't know. I mean,
Anybody?
I would say I'm Team Black, but like I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know. I hate people
Yeah,
on both sides. I really do.
I'm Team Black, but I'm kind of also neutral leaning. And the only reason I'd be neutral leaning is because of Helena.
Even
So
Amon,
am I
I feel
the
like
only
I'm.
one
Yeah.
that
I'm Team
likes?
Black, but I love Elena, and I kind of love Alicent because I understand her.
Yeah. I
Nobody else
like
likes
Team
Kristen
Green
Cole?
and Team
oh,
I'm the only
we'll
one that
get to
likes
Cole.
Kristen and Allison together.
We
Like,
will get to Cole.
I don't love Allison and Otto, but I think we can all agree they're like really fun to watch. Like they're some of the most fun scenes to watch. Like they're just such great actors, and they're doing incredible like work portraying the characters, and they're really interesting. So yeah, I do enjoy like a lot of characters on Team Green too, even though a little more leaning towards the black side.
I think
gotta
the
really-
the cool thing about sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the cool thing about this show is that there are so many cool characters on both sides that you can sort of
Yeah.
subconsciously root for on an individual basis. Like, for instance, my favorite character in the whole show is Aemond, despite the fact that I'm more Team Black leaning. And so, it makes it interesting because I find the Team Green characters really interesting. Like, more interesting than Team Black. Like, morally, I'm Team Black. But if I'm watching a TV show and like being completely emotionally detached from it, I'm way more interested in Team Green sometimes. Like, I just find their dynamic really interesting, and I love Otto this episode in particular. I think he was hilarious, but also it was really like interesting to sort of see him interacting with the rest of the council and with Aegon and stuff like that. Those are my favorite type of scenes.
Yeah.
You
Otto
gotta
was kind of the
really-
voice of reason that episode.
Definitely.
You gotta really kind of wonder, like, what state of mind that Helena is in, because, as this is happening, she doesn't know what's a dream, what's a dragon dream, when something's going to
Yeah.
come true, what may not come true. That's why she's always whispering, because she doesn't want to come off as people looking at her like she's crazier than they already think she is. She's like, oh, the rats or this and that. Like she doesn't want to really tell anyone because it may not come true for God knows how long, or it may come true tomorrow. So you got to imagine like what kind of mindset that she's already in. Like, I'll be going crazy.
Yeah.
One thing I'm kind of disappointed in and still hoping they do is they give us a scene with Otto and Helena. Because in the dinner episode last season, it really felt like they had like little moments where he was like proud of her when she was like expressing herself and standing up for herself and talking, which is hard for her to do, I think, like in like groups. And like he like basically she stood up and talked about her marriage and like gave a little toast, and it was a little bit awkward. And Otto, like when she sat back down, he was like good, like he was proud of her for like even like speaking. and I was like hoping they would like expand on that relationship a little bit this season. I still hope we get like one scene, but I think I don't know. I thought that was really sweet.
I mean, I think because of where episode 2 ended off, it might be hard to imagine that we'll get another scene with
Yeah.
Otto and Helena, but I definitely agree with that. I think, especially the seeds of that were kind of planted in episode 8 last season, where we sort of saw that the only person on Team Green that really seemed to show any kind of compassion towards Helena was Otto and stuff like that. I think it's weird to see that, but in some ways it actually does kind of make sense, because from Otto's perspective, you've got Aegon, who he's never really liked. He never liked Aegon, even when they were younger and stuff like that. Aemond, I think he tolerates, and he feels like he can use him as like a political weapon and stuff like that. But with Helena, she's like a normal kid. Obviously she's like on the spectrum and stuff like that, but compared to the boys, she's like an angel. So like, I think he appreciates that about her. I think he sort of finds her to be a bit of a sort of calming sort of factor and stuff like that. So I think Otto is happy to have at least one normal grandchild. So yeah.
Yes, not to break y'all's feelings, but I don't think the producers even care about their relationship because, I mean, when is the last time since like that episode that you guys talking about we've seen Otto and Helena in the same room even? Like, I don't think they even care about it, and they think it's a waste of screen time because they don't have much because they're only making 8 episodes.
Yeah,
So
also,
I'm not seeing that is happening really.
yeah, if Otto had compassion for Helena, he wouldn't have made Helena go out on the carriage, like in the streets, when she was really emotionally distraught, you know? Like, he basically used Helena as like a political pawn in that sense, you know? To be like, look at my
Yeah.
mother's tears, you know? Like, he pretty
Well,
much carried her around King's Landing like a circus animal, you know?
I mean, that's
I
the
Yeah.
mean,
thing. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive with Otto.
yeah.
I think he can very much still treat the people that he loves like political pawns. I
Yes.
think
Yes.
his idea of affection, his idea of family is quite different to what ours would be, because he lives in Westeros and he's a politician first and foremost, and that sort of dominates his personality. Like, ever since his daughter was young, he's been using her pretty much.
Yeah.
And
What you just said
so
reminds me. Oh shit, my bad. You go ahead.
no, go for it.
What you just said reminds me so much of that scene when they're on the hunt, and Viserys and Otto are talking, and he's kind of trying to counsel him to, marry Rhaenyra like as soon as possible, and Viserys is just like, I don't want to make her obey me. I want her to be happy. I want to, I don't want to force her to do anything. And then it pans over to Otto, and he's just like shook. He's like, "What do you mean? You want happiness for your daughter? Like what? What do you mean you don't want her to obey you?" Like he's just so confused. For him, it just goes without saying that his daughter, his granddaughter, are gonna obey him. They're just gonna do what he says. Doesn't mean that he doesn't love them. I think he loves Alicent in a twisted way, and cares about her. I just think he still will use them. Same with Helena. He just
I
doesn't
think
see
he
them as
sees
like opposite. He sees like, it goes together in his head.
I think he sees them less as like his daughters and his like granddaughter or anything like that, but more as political pawns.
Yeah, me
If that
too.
makes any sense. That's the way I'd view it anyway, because from the moment we meet in season 1, when we meet Otto and we meet Alicent, Otto is pressuring and manipulating Alicent against Rhaenyra and against like this idea that Rhaenyra could be queen someday. Even when Aemma dies, and Otto is manipulating and trying to persuade Alicent to go to Viserys's room in one of her mother's dresses and stuff like that. It's really weird, and I don't think that he might hold what he thinks is love for her, but it's just weird. I think he views them really only as political pawns.
Yeah, also, the scene that you guys were talking about, I think it's in episode 8, where Helena, like, speaks up, she makes a joke, and then Otto kind of says, like, oh, good, like, and raises the cup a bit. I don't think that was done in a way of compassion or a way of love. I think that was more like, okay, good, she's finally starting to, like, speak up, she's, like, becoming more of, like a so-called player for the throne, if that, or not like player for the throne, but is definitely like, okay, I can
Some of it.
use her a lot better. If she's starting to speak up, then she's a lot more easy to use as like a kind of like a talking piece, if that makes sense. I don't think it was
mean-
done so much out of compassion. Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't think that. I don't think, considering Helena's personality, the type of person that she is, I don't think Otto ever really assumed that she was somebody that he could use in that way. I don't think that she's ever really been, like her brothers in terms of like, I think
Yeah.
she's not very aware of what's going on. She's quite oblivious. And so I don't think that Otto really did think that there was any way that he could really make any use out of her politically. I do
I wouldn't-
genuinely think that he was enjoying that dinner. And I think, they were all probably a little bit drunk and they were
Yeah.
having a bit of fun around the table. So I do think
Even
that
when like
scene
she
was a
was
bit of an
dancing with
outlier.
Jace, he was smiling at her and like proud of her
Yeah,
for like
exactly.
even coming out of her
Possibly
shell at
then,
all.
yeah.
I wouldn't describe
And-
Helena as what was the word he used? I forgot.
Oblivious.
Oblivious. I think it's more so he knows that he can't really make any political gain out of her in the sense that he did with Alicent, because she was married off to Aegon, which kind of eliminates any chance of a marriage agreement or like any kind of thing like that. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons that he's not as close with her, and the fact that she's quite timid and shy and she doesn't really go out of her way to talk to these people.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I feel like with Otto, he doesn't really like when it comes to Helena, like she already did the role he expected of her by marrying Aegon and like giving him a son and stuff. So I don't think exactly like how do I word it? I don't think he has any more like I guess use for her in that way. Because like she did everything that was asked for her already.
That was exactly what I was trying to say. I just couldn't think of the word. So thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and have Loretti move us on to the next scene so we can just keep plugging away here. And remember, all of you that are down off the stage, raise your hand and we'll call you up on stage if you have something to say. We'll move people up on stage, off stage, this and that. So Loretti, if you want to go ahead and take it to the next scene.
Yeah.
This will be the kind of the middle portion here. Again, some quick cliff notes on the scenes, and then we'll discuss it. But moving along.
Sorry, could we talk about something really quick, actually? Just before we move on, what do you guys think was the significance of the coin that Aemon picked up?
I think he noticed that it was moved from where he had originally left it. I think that's where I got
I have a
No,
theory. I have a couple of theories.
Coin. No, the coin is one of the coins that
Yeah,
Damon
they had a
used.
bunch of coins and they were using them to place on the map and to talk about battle strategy. And when the
Yeah,
thieves
but
went
not
in the
that
room,
coin.
they stole a bunch of them, but some fell off the table. So when he came in the room and saw some were fallen on the table and some were missing, he figured who would steal those? Who would in this castle on the floor where royals live would steal those? They don't have need for that. Obviously, it was Blood and Cheese that were in that room looking for him. I think he assumed.
Yes,
And then
Yeah.
it was confirmed when they questioned Blood.
that coin had a symbol on it. I think it was the Martell star that was on the Martell sigil that was on there. Which sort of confirms what your theory of it being the things that were on the map. I think it just sort of confirmed to Aemon that he had there were people that were sneaking around his room, and that he was the target. Basically, I think he already kind of knew that beforehand, but that's what just probably confirmed it for him.
And it also showed him, going right before that, looking at the secret passageway, that I don't think he even knew about that was a passageway until they accidentally left it open.
Yeah, I don't think he knew
but from the
either.
looks of it, he looked like he was staring like, okay, this is a passageway. And if you also notice, right next to the passageway on the wall, he had a tapestry of what was it, like the burning of Harrenhal, I think it is. So I don't know if it's foreshadowing or what, but that's also something that they had there. And the way he held up the coin, also covering his eye. So they're throwing a lot of little clues in there.
Yeah, let's move on to the next.
All right, Loretta, yeah. Want to go ahead and get the cliff notes for the next scene?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Blood is being interrogated and gives up Damon as the one who paid them, but he says he does not know the name of Cheese. The walking funeral makes some advancements, while Rhaenyra tells Damon she can no longer trust him. Kristen Cole, everybody's fave, tells Eric the only way to earn his honor back and make this right is to go on a solo raid and kill Rhaenyra. He accepts this mission. We get a brothel scene where Aemond is talking to one of the ladies about how he lost control when he killed Lucerys. We get some quick scenes with Hugh Hammer, the blacksmith, which I know a lot of people were confused about. Adam and Alan Hull, and Rhaenyra and Mysaria have a conversation. Again, just very quick cliff notes there, but we'll get into all of that here. Let's start with Hugh. I want to talk about Hugh. Did we lose everybody?
I think people got moved to the audience.
Yeah, by the way, everybody, if you want to talk, just hit the hand icon. We'll get you up here.
Yeah, we got a
So,
lot of
Shadow,
hands
were
up.
you confused about Hugh? Because I know a lot of people were on the subreddit. I saw a lot of comments on the episode discussion post saying they didn't remember who he was, even though they did show him in the previously on recap and before the episode. But
I mean,
what did you make about the Hugh scene there?
I'm a book reader, so I know who Hugh is. But I mean, yeah, no, I
You
think
think they did a good job of reinserting him into the story?
What was his first scene? Was it the one in when they were in the house with his kid?
Correct.
Was that the first scene?
That was the first
Well,
scene from this episode.
for this season. Yeah.
For this episode, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for this episode.
Yeah, no, I think it was a decent enough job. I don't really know how else they could have done it. I mean, it seems to me as though his wife is gonna be a character as well. I don't know to what significance, what level, but that's gonna be sort of like a subplot, perhaps, is Hugh sort of providing for his family as a blacksmith and stuff like that, working for Aegon and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it was I think it's one of those scenes where you can kind of gloss over it. I think especially what I've realized about House of the Dragon in particular, I think is people are not really ready to have it sort of follow similar ways to Game of Thrones, in that I think people go into this show expecting everything to be Rhaenyra and Daemon and all that sort of stuff. And when there's subplots about the characters that people don't really know about, people seem to forget that this is exactly what Game of Thrones did. And be like, oh, why are they focusing on this random person? I want to go back to Rhaenyra and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I personally liked the scene. I think it was foreshadowing maybe for certain things that could happen later on in the story. And I'm excited to see what they do with Hugh. That they've introduced him this early on. Like in episode 1, they introduced him, and then they've continued introducing him, and in episode 2, so there'll probably be some more scenes sprinkled in with Hugh where we'll get to know him a little bit more, and maybe his wife and his kid more as well. But yeah, it's a good sort of setup scene, but quite easy to gloss over, in my opinion.
I have something to
Yeah.
add to that, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
We in the scene as well, we see Hugh's wife speaks about the fact that she had to go very far away across the village and spend a lot more money than she usually would on chicken, and it's like the first kind of real acknowledgement we have of the blockades. Well, not really the first, but the first we see of the small folks' acknowledgement of the blockade and how it is genuinely affecting the small folk in King's Landing, not just the Greens.
I think when
Yeah.
Aegon was taking petitions, it was mentioned as well. One of the last, I think the last petitioner said the blockade, and then not the last one, but then Aegon said, "Oh, I plan to have Vhagar burn a tash," and like dismissed them, I think.
Yeah, I
Also-
have like some thoughts about Hugh because he's I think they did it more in House of the Dragon than Game of Thrones. That is something that I like in the show, that they show us the perspective of the common folk, of the normal people, not just the royal families and that. And he was a great example, and will be a great example too, for a commoner who lives like in King's Landing or something, like in a normal village and like a very low state of life. How does the conflict affect him and the other people too? So I think, yeah, he's a great character and going to become a great character. I think they had a great cast for him too. Yeah, that's my thoughts about him.
All right, let's give Hamdi just came on stage. If you want to go ahead and give us your thoughts. And
Yeah, you
unmute.
just have to hit the mute the microphone icon. When you come up to the stage, you're automatically muted.
There you go.
I don't
Hey,
know if to say yes or say.
hey, are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, she dropped off.
You dropped off.
Yeah, it looks like we got somebody else new up here too. See you. How you doing?
How's it? I was just invited. I don't really have much to add currently.
Eamon, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good, thank you.
So I was invited too, but I did want to just talk about what Shadow Queen mentioned about Hugh. I did read the book. I struggled through it honestly, so I don't remember too many of the details. But I agree with her that that the intro to Hugh was decent. I didn't have an issue with it, but if I was a casual viewer, then yeah, he would have been an easy character to gloss over. And I'm trying to remember the name of the person who's speaking, like Honey with an X instead of the O. She's not on stage anymore. But there was that man who mentioned something about salt and how it was being affected by the blockade. He was right before Hugh. And kind of going to that scene in the throne room with Aegon and Otto, when Aegon was saying that, he planned to have Vhagar burn it to ash. I felt like that was really just a point of frustration after Aegon was messing with his hands, like Alicent did whenever she was younger, to basically take control. After Otto already told him about what was that first petition about the sheep, I think?
Yeah, it was about the sheep.
Yeah, so I thought, humor aside, I thought that was a fantastic scene. And I try to pay attention to like smaller details like that whenever like Aegon was messing with his hands. So just small little touches that I really appreciate throughout the show.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Re sort of Hugh's introduction in terms of like, I think what the showrunners have done, not just with Hugh but also with Adam and Alan, or who I'm sure we'll get onto. Um, these sort of supporting characters, they've introduced them in very mundane ways. And so it seems like they're sort of trying to bed in the seeds of the characters rather than throw us straight into the action with all of them, which I can understand, but it's kind of a double-edged sword because if there's no stakes in those introductory scenes and it's just like a regular scene of them talking, people aren't really going to care very much, and they're also not going to know why it's important to pay attention to this particular person. They're not going to know if that character is going to appear again. And if they don't do anything memorable, they might not even remember them for the next time they appear on screen.
I think it's intentional to kind of make the intros understated, because if they exaggerate and make this big deal out of every single new character that is introduced this season, we're going to have never ending introductions that are abrupt and kind of disrupt the flow of the story. But I think slowly adding in these characters and not really giving them a huge introduction allows for their character to build up for their important moment in the dance. At least that's the way I'd view it. Or I don't know.
No,
I agree with
Also,
I agree
you.
with
Yeah,
you.
reflect the common folk as well. Like these aren't important people. They have no, like, kind of prior like stakes in the story. Like, they don't speak for anything in the story. So the fact that they just kind of like slip in there, I think is very like symbolic of how the common people feel. Like they don't get a big introduction because they're just lowborn. In the story,
Mm.
like, I think it's still a good kind of like look into how the people are feeling about that.
Yeah, I agree with what Atreides said about like
thank you.
not giving too much to these introductions, because like I kind of like that they leave it up to the audience to look at these characters and be like, okay, who will they be, like what part will they play in this story? So like I kind of like that they're kind of like set in these like normal scenes, in my opinion. So yeah, I agree with what Atreides said before.
Yeah, I think whenever Alan and Adam were talking, and they mentioned Corlys and how Alan had a scene with Corlys, I think that's a good way to kind of bridge that gap to bring like a big player like Corlys into a scene, to kind of capture the viewer's interest. So as opposed to like Hugh, being introduced in the petition, it being a pretty fairly boring intro in comparison. I think that was a pretty good way to meet in the middle somewhere with that.
Yeah, I think everybody spoke. We can move to the next point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's talk about Adam and Alan. Because I don't think we talked about Corliss too much week one. Um, Anybody want to start off talking about kind of Corliss's subplot right now and what's going on with Adam and now Alan?
Yeah, I can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously we were introduced to Alan in episode 1, and now we've been introduced to Adam, his brother, in episode 2. And so Alan is obviously he served with Corlys. He saved his life apparently, and so now Adam is sort of in Alan's ear, just being like, "Hey, you should probably, try and ingratiate yourself with Corlys. Maybe he'll take you along, and you can, be famous and rich and all that sort of stuff." And I think they're just trying to advance their standing, but Alan's being very wary about it because he knows that war is coming, and I don't think he's particularly excited about that. I think he's like most of the common folk. I think it just shows that none of them are really looking forward to this war. In fact, they're openly fearing it and stuff like that. And so I think Alan is interesting to me. I think I'm very intrigued to see more interactions between him and Corlys. and whether Rhaenys is going to figure in that as well. But yeah, I think we'll see what happens in that. I'm really excited to see what happens with Adam as well. He is a book character. I'm not going to say any more than that. Same as Alan. And so they will have storylines in the future. But I think one thing that I did want to point out is that the scene with Adam on the beach collecting crabs, and there's a dragon flying above him. Does anybody have any theories on which dragon that might be?
I
that's
do.
definitely sea smoke.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's sea smoke.
Yeah,
like
we can go with the general consensus that it is sea smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that
Yeah.
was a bit of a rhetorical
Dude.
question, but
Yeah.
I don't know why I
Sorry.
keep getting muted, but one of the things I wanted to say, which I remember thinking this at the time, like, or especially in like the first episode, but like now that like they're kind of teasing Alan getting closer with Corliss, I honestly think going forward, and it's just like a minor theory. I don't think they'll actually do it, but it's still a possibility. So Corliss no longer has an heir to what's it called, Driftmark, yeah?
Yep.
Like, yeah. So because like, both of his kids are gone, Luke is gone, like he has no one. So I think honestly he could say that Alan is like his bastard or something that he never knew he had. And he could name, like, legitimize Alan as like his heir. Which could be a way that the story goes. I don't know. I remember thinking that at the time when I was watching the episode.
I think Laenor is going to have a comeback sometime in the future.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
what
that
I.
as well, but yeah, now that Adam is in play as well, like now that Adam has like become an actual character in the show, I don't see how Laenor could fit in there, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
well, you
but
never
I don't
know.
think he
I mean,
I don't think he can claim Sea Smoke if Laenor is still alive, because we know, like in various places in the show, that a dragon has sort of like a solely connection between his rider until he dies, until one of them dies. So
Yeah.
we know that Laenor is not dead. So I don't
if
see
Adam
how Adam can claim like Sea Smoke.
if Adam claims whatever dragon that is, which we're assuming is Sea Smoke, then that means that Laenor is dead. So it depends on whether the show will decide to let that happen, and if so, whether the show is going to change canon or whether they're going to kill Laenor on screen or off screen, or something's going to happen to Laenor to where Adam is able to claim him. So
Yes.
we'll see what route the show decides to go with that, but it's interesting to see how early in the season we're getting the seeds sort of sown for that potentially happening. So yeah, should be interesting.
All right, we're ready. What's the next scene that we should have everyone start talking about?
We have not talked much about Rhaenyra and Daemon yet, have we?
Not
Oh, I
yet.
thought
Yeah.
you were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Rhaenyra and Daemon, and if anybody wants to talk about that, we also had Rhaenyra and Massaria
think
combo, and definitely Kristen Cole and the Arik convo.
Yeah, I think definitely Damon has his own intentions right there. And when she asked him that, um, does he accept her as his queen and ruler? He maneuvered around the question and told, "I put the crown on your head and all that," because I don't think he does actually. I think he's still the tricky guy we know before. I think he still has his own intentions to the throne and all that.
Yeah, same. And also, when he was talking about how, oh, your father, he didn't put, he only put you on the throne to get to me. Like, he's still convinced that he should have been the heir.
Yeah, that too. I forgot about it.
I mean, what do you guys think about the? I mean, the actual episode title is Rhaenyra the Cruel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, I'll jump in if that's okay on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that is the episode title. So following on from Otto's plan, you've now got Rhaenyra losing her shit with Damon, and quite rightly so. I think she's very conscious of image, because I think in a scenario that we have here where we've got two rival claimants looking to win over the people and stuff like that, image is very important for Rhaenyra, and especially coming from the background that she's coming from, where she's a woman fighting for her claim versus the traditional sort of choice of a male heir and stuff like that. To have something like this happen is really damaging for her, especially. And so, I think the fact that word travels fast in Westeros, propaganda is very powerful. And, Otto did his work, and now everyone's calling her Rhaenyra the Cruel, Rhaenyra the Monstrous, and she's only got Daemon to blame for this. This is Daemon's work. Like, it might have been Blood and Cheese who did the deed, but it was Daemon who wasn't, like, he allowed this to happen. Like, yes, they wanted to kill Aemond, but he should have, like, said, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if him saying, "Oh, well, don't kill Jaehaerys," I don't think he would have said that. I don't think there was ever any scenario where Daemon would forbid them from killing Jaehaerys. I don't think the idea really fully came into his mind. I don't think he was thinking about them killing the little boy. Maybe he was thinking about them killing, like, the king or Alicent or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that Daemon is flat out evil. I don't think that he would ever sort of go out of his way to target a 5-year-old boy. But at the same time, I also don't think he's that remorseful over it. I mean, he was smirking at the table. He seemed to find it quite funny. And
Yeah.
so, I don't think that there's an ounce of regret there. I think there's regret because he's got Rhaenyra screaming in his face about it. But I don't think there's regret in terms of, like, oh, I shouldn't have killed the kid. No, I think he got his revenge. It wasn't the exact revenge he was looking for, but still, he got what he was wanting. He got a son for a son. So yeah, I mean, Damon has his own agenda. He has his own way of doing things, and Rhaenyra has her way of doing things, and that is always going to clash because in the show, Rhaenyra being sort of the more level-headed of the two, she's more pragmatic. She's gonna be thinking about what the people are thinking, whereas Damon doesn't really, or he did used to sort of care about that. I think if you guys remember, in episode 4, there was a scene where young Rhaenyra was watching the play and stuff like that was being performed, and then she was like, because they were sort of making fun of her and stuff like that. And Damon was telling her, you should care about what the people think of you because you're going to hope to rule them one day. And she's like, their wants are of no consequence. And now it seems as though those roles have sort of flipped now. Because now that
Yeah.
Rhaenyra is older, she is conscious of what the people think. Whereas Damon seems to have completely forgotten about that or disregarded it versus getting his personal vengeance and stuff like that. So I think that's quite interesting. Sorry that I'm rambling on, but I did have one more thing to add on with that, which was that I really like how they chose to do that argument. I really was impressed with the sort of like it felt like reality TV, and also kind of like you were watching some like real life married couple arguing in their living room. It kind of felt a lot like you just walked into an argument of like, you know, family friends and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna leave now.
It
Sorry.
felt really real.
Yeah,
Real.
I do agree with
So,
what Shadow Queen said. I feel like with Damon, that whole argument, he's always wanting to like prove himself to somebody. Like we see him wanting to prove himself to Viserys, but he just has his own like twisted way of doing so, and it backfires, and it does have consequences. And when Rhaenyra was like well, you like weakened my entire claim. I can understand where she's coming from, like from the point where he doesn't get any of the blame for what happened. It all falls on her. And I feel like that was the same with Viserys and his relationship before. So yeah.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for sharing so far. Does anybody else want to add to that, or any of the other scenes? Like, didn't really touch too much on the Aemond brothel scene or
I feel
Kristen
like
Cole's behavior
oh,
so far.
I was gonna say something about Rhaenyra and Damon again, but
Yeah.
I feel like she took two really big blows this episode. Like, first of all, she got blamed for blood and cheese, which makes her a kinslayer, at least to the people, to the lords, that she needs their loyalty. Even in her own council chamber, she got accused of being the one behind it, even though she was denying it. And also now Damon is just gone. He's off with his dragon. So that's two big things. Like when Rhaenyra approached Daemon about getting married together, she said, "My claim won't be as easily challenged if you're by my side." And losing him by her side, and nobody knows he's the one responsible for blood and cheese. They think it's her, but losing him by her side really, I think, hurts her cause as well. He's a very strong, I guess, player on Team Black, and people fear him and they think he might be a little rogue, but they do respect him and his strength at least. And now she's going to be seen as a little bit weaker, in my opinion.
Yeah, I want to add on to something that felt weird to me. Rhaenyra, the the same woman that one episode ago, not really, like 1 day ago, maybe, or 2 days ago, she was like all messed up with crying and more for her son and all that. Then now she looks like fresh, like she looks so fresh, like nothing happened, and she's arguing about somebody else death and blood and cheese. I don't think I think they moved fast with this one. I think they should may like take their time with how she recovered from the death of her son.
I
And I
think.
want to
Oh,
talk
sorry.
about. Okay, go ahead. And
Are you sure? I
because
feel
I'll take,
bad now.
yeah, I'll take too long with the next one.
I
Go ahead.
think I think them showing Rhaenyra being like serious and maybe not so disrupted by her grief in this episode is to show that she's maybe still in shock and she's still comprehending, or to show that she's not letting her grief distract herself from this war, because if she is swallowed
Yeah.
by the grief in this war, then she will lose it.
She has to be a strong ruler.
She
If
has
it
to
was,
be, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, she,
I mean, it's expected of Aegon to be strong, and that's why Otto didn't want him displayed in the streets and everything. He doesn't want the people to see him crying or breaking down. He has to be seen as a
Yeah.
strong figure. And I think Rhaenyra is very conscious of that. She can't really be seen as weak at this point. Which I think she's still grieving her son, don't get me wrong. I think she is, but I also think she has to be a ruler, like a strong person.
like in the last
Yeah.
episode, we see her really, really deal with her grief head on, and and even find Luke's cloak and everything like that, and the line where Damon says, "Have you found what you need?" it's kind of that
Yeah.
short period of time where she can be controlled by grief, where she can publicly display the fact that she is mourning her son and not have it, used as a way to say that she's weak or that she shouldn't, do this, that, and that, and that she's a weak queen, something along the lines of that. But like,
Also, it's sort of left up to our interpretation how many days it's been. She's been, riding on Cyrax looking for the body or looking for whatever. We're not sure how long it's been since the death
So
and then episode
we
2.
we know that it's been we know at the end of episode 1 that it's been 10 days since Luke died and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But what we
And then
we
yeah.
don't know what we don't know is if there are any days between episode 1 and episode 2. We don't know how
There's
much
not.
time.
They just found out that Jaehaerys died and they're all messed up. The
Yeah.
whole Red Keep. So it's
Yeah.
not even a day.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the point that was made of having to put on the sort of face of the queen and face of the king for Aegon as well, because Aegon also has had to recover quite quickly from the loss of his son. And so he's sort of gone from that to, I think now, I mean, he's still acting on emotion, but he's not like distraught and stuff like that. And I think, with Rhaenyra, it's the same thing. She's had her grieving time, and if it was up to her, she'd probably be grieving a little bit more. But as it is, she's in a position where she's at the head of a council who are expecting her to take the lead on a lot of things, and so, and tell them what to do. So, she can't sort of hide away forever. She has to sort of take charge now because there's a war happening. So, I think she's quite conscious of that, and she does seem to have a little bit of a support system as well with her lady in waiting, who's seems to be taking quite good care of her. So that's quite good. Should we move on to a different scene? Because I was conscious that Loretti had a couple of ones that he wanted to touch on before we move topics
But
again.
real quick, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you guys had like a lot of good conversations. I just want to chime in real quick about the Daemon and Rhaenyra scene because I feel like that scene alone doesn't get enough praise because not only was the dialogue good, but the acting as well. Specifically like Daemon's facials acting, like the way he was holding himself back, and Rhaenyra, the way she was talking. I want to say the actor at least, Emma Darcy, she did a good job. But I mean, other than that, I feel like they both had a lot of right and wrongs on both sides between what they said. But I mean, like, cause I've been seeing a lot of criticism towards Daemon for acting out and basically having Jaehaerys' death in his hands, even though I mean we could see that he didn't order it, but I mean it happened nonetheless. So I mean he has to take some of the blame of that as well. But I feel like Rhaenyra and just people in general have been talking about her regarding what happened to Jaehaerys, because at the end of the day, I mean, she was the one who came last episode and said, I want Aemon and nothing else. So, I mean, just her saying a vague statement like that and Daemon trying to carry that statement, by having Aemon killed, it went wrong. It went wrong, yes. He's blaming that, but I mean, she has to look at herself and, like take some of that blame as well, because she was the one that stated that, she wanted Aemon and, it ended up going wrong. I just want to hear what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Rhaenyra does sort of have to take a little bit of that on. I think, her instructions were, I mean, it wasn't even really an instruction. It was an outburst more than anything. I don't think she really, was thinking about the logistics of how that would even work, because this is going to be like, I mean, it didn't turn out that way, but you could have assumed that it would be quite difficult to get into the Red Keep and kill the literal second in line to the throne and stuff like that. So, there was really no way of even really making that happen. I think, with she was probably expecting Daemon to get on Caraxes and go and fight Vagar and shit like that or something. I don't know what she was expecting, um, but and to be honest, Daemon probably would have enjoyed the challenge. He probably would have killed him, but he would have enjoyed the challenge. But as it is, I don't think she was expecting anything of the type of blood and cheese to happen. I don't think she would have sanctioned that if she knew that that was going to be Daemon's tactic. And
I remember. Oh shit, my bad.
no, go for it.
I was about to say when
I'm
she
talking
walked
too
in
much anyway.
the council room, Damon immediately said, "I'm ready to go to Harrenhal at your command," and all that stuff. And then she just walked at the end of the table, said, "Your council's ready," and then all she had to say was, she was not willing to deal with any plan for Harrenhal or anything like that. She just basically said she wanted revenge on her son, like she wanted Aemond. And I don't think I've seen people argue that like Daemon didn't say a son for a son to Blood and Cheese, but I think that's a little copium in my opinion. He definitely said that, even though it was cut off. How would they know to repeat that in private afterwards if he didn't say it to them? He said it to Rhaenys in the beginning of the episode. He said a son for a son to Rhaenys. And then you're telling me the assassins came up with that exact phrase when Blood grabbed Helena. He said that's not a son. He said a son for a son if we can't find Aemon. And then people are saying he didn't say that. Like he definitely said that. I think
he did.
Aemond definitely. I don't think he was aiming for little kids, but I think he wanted. If he couldn't get Aemond, he wanted basically another green sun. He didn't care who it was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely feel like they left it up to the audience to figure out what he said after they cut it off. But I do agree, he definitely said a son for a son. Because, yeah.
They
Yeah,
barely
because
left it up to us
clearly,
because the
yeah,
assassin repeats it. He said
yeah,
he said a son for a
Multiple
and
son.
even
times.
he quotes Damon. Blood
Yeah.
says he said son for a son. This is,
And in
Yeah.
case the audience thinks, oh, maybe the assassin's making it up, I don't know how he would. Damon said it himself, a son for a son, earlier to Rhaenys. So it's definitely something he came up with.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. No.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just something I wanted to bring up because I heard a lot of flack on Damon, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. But I'm a big Damon fan, so I mean, if there's if there's good criticism, like that's right, I'll take it. But if it's like just on one side only, when the other side's to blame as well, then I got to speak on that. That's all.
I love Damon too, but I definitely think he's guilty for at least sending assassins with very vague and like instructions.
Right?
He's
Yeah,
definitely
he's wrong for that.
guilty. Because a son for a son could mean anything. Like it's just I don't know.
Right.
So you
And,
have to
like, why
take
would
that
they look
on, the
for
responsibility of what happened because you were so vague. And I think he
Yeah,
was
why
vague on purpose. He didn't really. If he cared that much, he would have said, "Oh, if you can't find Aemon, then the king or whoever else." He would have named someone else. He left it vague because he didn't really care.
Yeah,
I
Shall we
I
think
move
agree with
on?
that.
Shall we move to a different topic? I think we spent quite a lot of time on this specific topic, so I'm
yes,
just
yeah,
thinking maybe we should move on to something else.
I agree.
All right, Lorraine, it's on you.
Yeah, kind of in the last portion of the episode now, where we have the big scene of Aegon stripping Otto of Hand of the King, giving it to Kristen Cole, which was a great scene. I thought really well acted. We have and also Rhaenyra let Masseria go. On her way down, she spies the Cargill twin coming in, and then we have that battle between the twin brothers. Let's see, what else do we have? We had Otto mentioning Darren to Alicent finally.
Yes, yeah.
A lot of people are happy about that. Yeah.
I was going to refer to that.
Yeah, and then we had the big the big ending there with Kristen and Alicent
Yeah.
getting the shenanigans back
All right.
on.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. So I'll go first. I think, yeah, as you said, the scene is well acted and all that, and it plays a crucial story lore, and because the consequences of Aegon's actions are going to come back at him, and we'll see that later. And the scene will make more sense later. And for the scene of how Otto mentioned that Daron is in the High Tower city for the first time, like we've never heard of him before. Like, where's Daron? Like, he's missing. And it's nice that we knew that he's there.
Yeah, I think the two most requested or questions for characters were where's Darren and where's another book character Nettles or where they were going to be, but
Yeah,
it looks like Darren's at least in play or will be in play. Um,
yeah,
Kind of
but
scared.
Raylo's not.
I'm kind of
Raylo's.
scared for where the show's gonna go with Daron, because so far I feel like they've been at least in my perspective, because I just finished the dance a few days ago, and I've seen like the changes that they've done in the show, and I feel like so far they've been very biased towards Team Black. Like, they're making Team Green very, very unlikable, and just adding scenes like Allison walking in and seeing Aegon crying, then walking out, and then going back to her ways, and just Sir Kristen being a hypocrite. Um, which I mean, like they're bad characters. I mean, they're bad people in the books as well, but I feel like it's just not as balanced as it is, and I feel like I'm scared that like I don't want Daron to be involved in the story and be portrayed as like a bad person, because he's one of the most, if not the most, likable character in Team Green. So that's just my thing on it. Like I'm scared. I'm happy that he got introduced, but I'm also scared as well.
I feel like they might do his character good because that's what Team Green needs right now. Because like the general audience doesn't like any member on Team Green. So I feel like Darren would definitely balance that out when they introduce his character. Because I feel like that's what Team Green needs the most right now. Because like the
I think
majority of the audience is Team Black.
I
I
think
think
what
Team
you
Green has Helena. Like I
I mean,
haven't like met anyone that is entirely like that hates Helena, and if I have, they're extremely weird.
yeah, I agree. Like Helene is definitely loved by both teams, but she's not really an active member in the war. I'm like talking about like the active people like Aegon, Aemon, Otto, and Allison.
Oh, sorry, I
Right.
thought you just meant
Yeah,
like
no,
Team
you're all
Green in
good.
general, and I was like, Helena.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think we could probably point to how Daron is mentioned by Otto to sort of maybe give a little bit of foreshadowing to how he's going to be portrayed in the show. Because if you remember, Otto, the reason that he brings Daron up is because he's looking for someone
Someone he
that
can
will
control.
maybe
Right.
someone that he can sort of maybe who sort of understands the importance of like keeping a level head and stuff like that, who isn't as like impulsive and impetuous as someone like Aegon is and stuff like that. I think Otto is sort of looking for calm right now. He's looking for someone that's like Viserys and that's like a little bit more measured and stuff like that. And dignified
Yeah.
was the word that he used. And so, with all of that being said, the fact that he said that and then mentioned Daron in the same sentence leads me to believe that they're going to characterize Daron pretty well. I think
Same.
the
and
fact
when do you think we're going to see him introduced?
that early
The
next
tree,
season,
honestly. Yeah.
early next season, I think probably even in the first episode of next season. I think they can't afford to leave it any longer. I think they realize that now. The only reason he's not in this season, I think, is because they had so much to get to and they had to cut down from 10 to 8 episodes. And so I think, they probably didn't really think of a way to work him into this season. And to be fair, I don't think his plot line is really coming up on the horizon anytime soon anyway. So but yeah, so I mean he'll probably be introduced early next next season. They're probably just laying the seeds for him. We might hear his name mentioned a few more times before the season is over. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they sort of blood that in. But going back to sort of Aegon, I think we originally were talking about Aegon and firing Otto and stuff like that. That's my favorite scene in the episode, hands down. I loved every part of that scene. I loved Aegon in that scene, and I especially loved Otto. I think he was hilarious in parts. I think he was really like animated and furious. You know, we haven't seen that sort of pure rage from Otto very many times, and I think that sort of really like came to the fore, and it also sort of showed a different side of Otto. I think a lot of us sort of see him as this cold, you know, calculating politician figure who doesn't give a shit about anything, and to an extent that was kind of true. But he did also say, you know, you've murdered innocent men, you've done this and stuff like that. I don't think Otto would stoop to what Aegon has done at the end of that episode. I don't think that there was a world where he would really consider that, especially being the sort of political mind that he is. He was thinking about it not just from this perspective of it being innocent men, but also of what murdering innocent men will do to Aegon's image and stuff like that. And you know, he was talking specifically about how what Aegon did undid all of Otto's work. I think is why he was upset, is because Otto had this whole plan of like, oh, I'm gonna turn King's Landing, I'm gonna turn the kingdom against Rhaenyra by sort of blaming Blood and Cheese entirely on her. Everything's going to be great. Everyone's going to come to our side now, and because they think that Rhaenyra is some kind of monstrous child killer, you know. And he sort of had all of it worked out, and now Aegon has just come and literally shit all over all of his plan by doing this with the rat catchers. And so I think Otto is just really angry and frustrated, and he realizes that what he's dealing with is something that is not, it's not like dignified, like it's not like what he's used to with Viserys. You know, Viserys was a force that he could control, and they were very alike, Viserys and Otto. They were very much sort of two sides of the same coin in terms of, like, you know, maybe Otto was more aware of what was going on than Viserys was, but they had like a similar temperament, a similar mentality. They both have that sort of old world sort of like wisdom and stuff like that. Whereas Aegon is young. He's just come off the back of being a teenager. He doesn't know what being a king is yet. And he's emotional and impulsive and violent and all these things that Otto doesn't know how to control. And so I think in that scene, he was just really like sick of everything. And it was really good to see that, I think.
I really loved Otto in this scene. But I do want to point out he's not, I don't think he was as much enraged about Aegon killing the rat catchers. I think he was enraged about him displaying their bodies to the people. I think that's what his point mainly was. He said, you hang them on the walls, and now the widows weep at our walls and curse your name, and now everyone is going to know what you did. And I think he's mainly focused on the politics of it. And if Aegon had done it in private, I don't think he would have had as much of an issue. Maybe an issue with him not consulting Otto about it, but I don't think he would have had that much of an issue with the act itself. So Otto's no angel. I mean, he did order the hanging of many lords last season when they refused to bend a knee right away. He didn't imprison them, give them time to think about it, nothing. He just hung them, and he hung their bodies in the castle for the people to see, not outside. But yeah, he's very preoccupied about appearances, and how much Aegon was reckless really hurts how Otto operates with appearances.
Not to disagree with you, because I do agree with you on that, but I will say that the way that Otto treated those people last season versus this, I feel like those are still two quite different things. Because apart from Cheese, all of the rat catchers were innocent.
The
Whereas
lords were as well, no?
yes, but they all went against what Otto, like they all said that they wouldn't break their oath. And so
Could have
to
imprisoned
Otto,
them, give them time, but I don't know.
to Otto, that's a crime. It's treason to him. And so that justifies the act in his mind to do that. Whereas those rat catchers didn't do anything. It was literally just Cheese who did it. So I feel like in Otto's mind, he needs to make an example of the people that go against the king in season 1. And so everyone, I think if there were some people that had been like, oh, well, okay, I will bend the knee and stuff like that, and then stayed loyal, I think he would have spared them. I think he would have allowed them to go back to their castles and stuff like that. And sort of like be on Team Green and stuff like that. But I think it's different. I don't think Otto will kill someone unless it has a political gain for him. I think
He's
I
a
don't.
hypocrite then, no? Because
Oh yeah, I mean
I
everyone.
never
in Team
really
Green is
saw
a
him
hypocrite.
as much of a hypocrite, but it's pretty like big then because I don't know, like it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean everyone.
adding
Everyone
to
is a
that,
hypocrite.
Yeah.
you know,
Because he pretty
adding
much
to that
admitted to Aegon's
scene.
face that they
Okay, go ahead.
usurped the throne. His father never wanted him on there. They usurped it. He admitted it this episode. So for I don't know. Yeah. You can go
Yeah,
ahead.
adding to that scene, I think we forgot about the biggest blunder of the episode. The stupidest thing, right? Really. And I like how Otto himself referred to it as so silly when he asked, "What has Sir Christian Cole done?" When Egon said Christian Cole has acted, he did the stupidest thing, and Sir Arak listened to him. Like, how can you go kill your brother just because Sir Christian Cole told you to? Like, hell, all hell, Christian Cole. He ordered me to kill my twin. When you could have just go ahead and join your twin and go against the other team because the other team don't like you. Duh. Don't just go kill your brother. Like, it's so stupid. Who would have, like, anybody? This show is about families and how brothers sticking together. Who would have, in his right mind, go fight his brother or some random king or random knight who's fucking the queen
Well,
regent? Like, dude, that's the biggest blunder. He could have killed them in the dance. Maybe they meet each other in the
Because
dance or something.
Kristen has a reputation for being so virtuous and so devoted to Aegon and Team Green and, you know, the family that you're going to believe anything he says and do what he asks you if you really believe that Aegon is the true heir.
I think Arak is very loyal to Team Green and to the king. I think he's taken his vows. He swore his vows as a Kingsguard, and both brothers really take those vows very seriously, unlike Kristen. But yeah, so they both take that very seriously, and so I think with Arak, it's a matter of duty. You know, I think he's having to put duty above family. Really, I think he.
That's the point. That's the stupid thing. And nobody has ever put duty over family there. Unless like only
That's the
maybe the
plot of
hound
this.
or the mountain. Nobody has ever done this, like especially your twin. Like you're connected. Like all the
Oh,
characters in Game of Thrones or House of Dragon, all of them have always family first, brother first. Fuck the rules, fuck the culture. We have to stay together as a family, as brothers and sisters. But no,
I
for
think that's
this
because they're
specific,
in a position where they can choose to make those decisions. Because most people that we see that do say those things are in noble born positions. But being in the Kingsguard, you give up everything. You take no lands, take no wife, bear no children. Eric is both the Sir Erics. They both chose what they believe to be their ruler. I don't think it's a matter of going and joining your brother. They have been sworn to serve either their king or their queen.
Yeah, exactly. And I think with Eric, I mean, he feels a strong sense of loyalty. Like his loyalty is to Aegon, not to Kristen. At the end of the day, like if he's thinking about it from the perspective of like following Kristen's orders, then yeah, fuck that. He doesn't care. But if it's betraying the king that he swore his vows to, then no, there's no way that he would ever do that. Even if whether he believes Aegon to be a good king or not is besides the point. It's like Eric swore a vow and he takes that vow very seriously. So if Kristen is saying do this for the king or else you're not loyal to the king, then Eric's going to take that to heart. He's going to want to prove his loyalty. He's not going to want that to be questioned because that'll dishonor him and stuff
And
like
Eric,
that. And so
Eric did call out Christian too before he left. You know, he was like, "Yeah, okay, buddy. Like, we know. Like, what are you doing? You know, like about your vows, and I'll go do this, but basically, it's not for you. You know, coming back to loyalty. He was like, I'm going to do it because I took vows, you know, to the king, and I'm going to go do it. Not basically because, you know, I look up to you or anything, because we know what you're doing." He didn't say it outright like that, but he basically let Christian know, like, yeah, you know, there's people talking. You know, what are you doing at night?
Yeah, like when he was like, "Where were you?" He could tell that Kristen was very much projecting.
Yep.
yeah. I mean, I think that was pretty plainly obvious for anyone listening. I think
Yeah.
all of the Kingsguard that were on the table probably all knew what was going on as well. Word travels fast, and there's probably gossip, so they probably all know that what Kristen is doing and probably what he was likely doing on the night that Jaehaerys was killed. But that's not Eric's business. As much as he has disdain for Kristen, he has to carry out his king's demands and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I mean, it sucks. Obviously, it's horrible what they had to do, but I don't think either of them really had much of a choice in the matter. I think they had to, like, Eric saw Eric coming into the room about to kill Rhaenyra. There was no way he was ever going to let that happen, even if it is his own brother. And so, yeah, so it was a rough scene. Extremely well acted, very well choreographed as well. Haven't seen many people talking about the choreography there, but I think it was very well done. And yeah, I mean the sort of ending of that when you have is it Eric or Eric that gets stabbed at the end? I can't remember which one of them.
Eric.
Eric.
Yeah, I was just about to say who is who.
Yeah, I think Eric. Yeah, I think Eric is the one who gets stabbed initially, and then Eric is the one who kills himself. A lot of people thought it was the other way around, but I do think that was actually who it was. So, which does make it actually even more interesting that he said "Your Grace" before he killed himself, rather than killing Rhaenyra and stuff like that. I think it shows that in that moment when his brother is lying dead at his feet, he does forget about his vows and stuff like that. That's the breaking point for him.
I think sibling killing is like one of the worst things that you can do in this whole, in the realm. Which is why, like, he went ahead and did that. Like it would be cross too heavy to bear, as if he were to stay alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like a better way they
Yeah,
could
the
have gone
actor
about
did a
it
great
though.
job. was watching it behind the scenes. They choreographed that. They worked really hard at it. Did I think 5 or 6 takes, and they took it real serious, and it
What were
was
you going
great.
to say, Minty?
Yeah, so I think like the way they could have gone about it in like a better way is if they got each other in like a mutual killing, but they got each other in a move that they both learned since childhood. So like when Arya's fighting Brienne and she does the thing with the dagger, if they both did that at the exact same time, and it's like they both like I don't know like stab like kind of like into the side, but because they're both facing each other, it both matches up with each other. It would have shown how like they are basically like they are one and the same. Like it would really show like how like they were like raised in the same way, learned the same fight style. I think that was what made the fight so interesting. Is that they
Well, I
both
mean-
know each other's counters so well.
The thing
I
is
agree.
that
Oh, you can go ahead.
no, you go. I've spoken too much. Go for it.
No, you're good. Okay. I was just agreeing, but I feel like it was more impactful that one survived but still ended his life anyways. And I kind of wish they didn't confirm who it was because like throughout the fight scene, we kind of get confused like who was who. So I felt like if it was left like ambiguous, it would have been way better ending for it. But at the end of the day, I felt like it was like still a great fight scene and that him killing himself at the end, even though he should be proud of like killing like the a threat towards the queen. Instead, he killed himself because he couldn't live with the guilt of like killing his own twin. And so I felt like that was way more impactful than just them killing each other. But I felt like that would have been good too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think that they did explicitly spell it out. I don't think that they did explicitly spell out which one of them was the one who survived. I know that Rhaenyra said Eric, but she might have been wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I liked how they did it. I think what I will say is that because the Cargyles were introduced so late in season 1, that they kind of had an uphill battle to make people feel the scene a bit as much as it was meant to be felt and stuff. I think if the Cargyles had been introduced as characters earlier on in season 1 and we'd had more scenes with them, then we would have felt that bond between them as brothers a lot more, and it would have hurt a lot more to see them go out the way that they did. And another thing I will say about the choreography as well is that I recognize what Minty you were saying about wanting to like use maybe familiar moves that each of them knew about. But I actually kind of liked that the fight was a lot of it was just wild slashing. Because I feel like if you're fighting your own brother, you're not gonna think too much about technique and stuff like that. Like you're not gonna treat it like a normal fight. I feel like neither of them would be really trying to try out moves or trying to win too much as they are just to make it end. And so I think, it's a passion, it's a fight of passion. It's not a fight of skill and stuff like that, like they would be doing in like a duel or something like that. Neither of them wants to do this. They're doing it to protect or to attack and stuff like that, or just to do their duty and stuff like that. But it's heavily overshadowed by like this huge like current of emotion that's flowing through both of them. I just don't think that they'd be thinking about past moves or technique or anything like that in a moment like that. But that's just me. Yeah, so we've talked about Cargyle Bowl, we've talked about Aegon firing Otto, we've talked about most of what happens at the end of that. I don't know if anyone has talked about the two scenes with Rhaenyra and Missaria. I feel like that might be something that somebody might want to jump in on quickly.
Oh, I have something. It's it's about Rhaenyra and Missaria, but the last scene where you see her and she spots Eric, and she obviously, we don't see it, but she tells not Rhaenyra but one of the Kingsguard that he's there. I feel like that will make Rhaenyra trust her more in the later episodes.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, if Rhaenyra finds out that it was Mysaria who did that, then yeah, quite possibly. I think maybe Eric will tell her. Oh no, never mind. That's a stupid thing to say. He's dead. He's fucking
No, but
dead. What am I
also,
talking about?
what I wanted to say before, I think they should have carried this arc through like a few episodes, like maybe even until like episode 4. Like they should have done that in like episode like 1, honestly. But you could even do it the opposite way, you know, where Rhaenyra sends Eric, I think, because yeah, A is like Aegon's side, so Eric is like on Aegon's side. If she sent Eric over to King's Landing instead, and you have that like building up over like a few episodes, where the two of them know what's up, they don't want to give each other up because they like Eric knows if he gives up Eric, he's gonna be killed immediately. You know, and then Eric is waiting for his kind of moment to do it, like, and you have a nice back and forth between the two. That would have been a lot cooler. I feel like it was very rushed, you know? Like, I think there should have been more build up for the infiltration because he kind of just shows up randomly, and the fact that, like, no one realizes, like, the way he comes into the castle is kind of strange because they'd be like, whoa, I saw you in, like, the hallway. Why are you coming back from King's Landing, you know? Like, I feel like if he snuck in a lot better and it was built up through more episodes, we got to see more of them as brothers, even in the castle, would have, like, that would have been a lot better. Like, if he, like, even if they had, like, a scene when they were, like, fighting, and I felt like they were going to do that when, one of the Kingsguard says, which one is Eric? If they had both said, I'm Eric, that would have been great. Like, that would have added more conflict, but they just didn't, you know? I felt like it was so rushed. It could have been like really great, but they didn't go far enough with it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about that, but I do see where you're coming from with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
Like,
the Cargill fight definitely needed a little bit more setup, a little bit more build up. So I agree with you on that one. They probably could have taken the time with certain aspects of it, and he did sort of just show up randomly at Dragonstone. But I also do think that they had quite a lot to get through in that episode. So certain scenes prior to that might have been cut or sort of like shortened for time. So it's possible that they did film something, but maybe we just didn't get to see it. There were a lot of scenes like that in season 1, and so we might have missed out on certain build-up scenes prior to that. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, these events all happen quite early on, so you know they kind of had to do it either this episode or the premiere and stuff like that. And I like that they did it in this episode rather than episode 1. I think it was a good sort of end point, except for the fact that it wasn't the end point. But yeah, we know what the end point was. Should we talk about that? Because that's the last scene of the episode. Should we get on to that?
Yeah. Just real quick, did we go over the funeral procession real quick? How many of you guys thought a head was going to roll? I don't know if I was listening, if we
Me,
went over that.
I was gonna bring up
yeah.
that I hadn't
thought
heard
that
anyone
too.
talk about it, but I joined late, so I didn't want to rerun if we'd already spoken about it.
Yeah, I think we glossed over it or didn't really cover it real quick. But the way they filmed that, and it being, you know, Game of Thrones, I thought for sure a head was going to roll. I was like, all right, it's going to roll down, and one of the small folk is going to pick it up and, like, kind of hand it up to
I
Allison
got
or something.
hiccups with it.
You know, especially when it
Play
got when Will
hacky sack.
Yeah,
Dribble
exactly.
a little bit.
Yeah, especially when the wheel hit the pothole and they were pushing it and pushing it. I think the producers were like, "Should we? Or is that a little too far?"
Yeah.
They
Yeah, I
definitely
definitely thought.
teased it. They definitely teased that. I don't
They
think they
certainly
were
did.
brave enough.
I don't think so. I think like Game of Thrones, maybe season 1, they would have did it. You know, when they were like all about the gratuitous sex left and right, and they seem to have toned things down a lot with some things. But I think
Yeah, not
maybe
with
if
the
it was really
gratuitous
Game of
sex though.
yeah, we would I don't know, we would have seen it maybe earlier and you know, if it was actual Game of Thrones season 1, season 2 or something. Because they showed a lot of crazy stuff. So I was totally expecting the head to roll. I would have been all right with it.
Yeah. One thing that teases me a little bit is the lightning and the lights in general inside the keep has changed from Game of Thrones. It seems a little too dark, like, and very dull. I think if they kept the same lights from Game of Thrones, like the sunlight going through the windows, like in an orange way, it would have been a lot cooler than the dark image we have now.
I think that's to portray the fact that there are dark things going on inside
Yeah.
of the keep. Like,
Yeah.
we just witnessed a little boy's head being decapitated. I don't think it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. These characters are struggling and they're in pain, and I think the area around them, the setting, will also reflect that.
Yeah, and they changed the council room for
Yeah, they
If we
did.
want to move on to the very end scene, I think Shadow was mentioning that before I started talking
Yeah.
about heads.
No, I think yeah, I mean we haven't really talked about Kristen much. I mean we've talked a little bit about like sort of his stupid plan with Eric and stuff, but I think just generally he's they've done a good job in making him somehow even more unlikable than he already was. I think, you know, it's interesting to see this dynamic with Allison, whether we like it or not. I think the writers have sort of given us an extra source of potential drama and conflict and stuff with that relationship and stuff. There were sort of seeds that were implied during season 1, especially in episode 9, when Allison sort of talks about like when she refers to like how you feel for me and stuff like that. So I think it's not completely out of the blue. It was seemed to be a little bit of a strange decision to end the episode with that. I feel like a better ending to the episode probably would have been Cargyle Bowl. Just the ending shot of Rhaenyra being shocked at that and stuff like that. I think that would have been a really good episode ender. But as it was, we ended with another scene of Allison and Kristen. I think it sort of reminds me a lot of the Jaime Cersei scene after Joffrey dies in Game of Thrones. Very sort of similar to that in terms of tone, and you know, Kristen sort of forcing himself on Alicent and Alicent being pissed off at him for various reasons. I'm not really sure how I feel about Alicent specifically in this scene. Like Kristen, we know is a piece of shit. We don't need to think about him too much in terms of that. Like, we're not surprised that he would do something like that at this point. But Alicent, I'm a bit disappointed in, because not only has she gone and done that after, you know, Blood and Pieces happened, she's gone back to what basically was one of the main reasons why that even was able to happen, was because Kristen was undisposed and stuff like that. But also, like, you know, she's I just don't understand how you would get back into a situation like that knowing what you know now, and also after literally just walking in on your son in floods of tears, crying. She just go in, seeing him crying, and just leaves. I don't like that decision by the writers. I don't think that, as a mother, I know that Allison has never been the greatest of mothers, but I feel like if as a mother, she should have taken that opportunity to comfort her son and stuff. Like, her son is a very, like, he's an asshole. Aegon sucks in every sense of the word, and he's never been a good son for her. She literally disowned him in episode 8. But I think at that moment in time, considering everything that they've all gone through, I feel like she should have taken some time to sit with him and at least try and play the role. But she just didn't bother. She just went straight back to Kristen, and whether it was consensual or not, she is the queen at the end of the day, and Kristen does seem to hold some kind of respect for her. So I feel like if she had actually properly pushed back against it, I mean, maybe I'm naive in thinking that, but I think if she'd actually properly said, absolutely not, we're not doing this, that Kristen would have stopped. But she didn't. She let it happen, and I'm just kind of disgusted at that, to be honest.
I can understand where you're coming from. Whatchamacallit, I feel like the whole scene with her and Aegon and her kind of like leaving him alone, it kind of goes back to like she just doesn't know how to like comfort people because she never got that treatment like when she was younger, so she doesn't know how to do it. Like Otto with her, like we never see like him actually be affectionate with her. And so he's always like pretty much like stern or like talking to her about politics. And I guess she mirrors that with her children. But like the whole scene, I just think she just doesn't know how to. Like she does want to be there for her children. She does love them, but she just doesn't know how to comfort them in a situation like that. Cuz she never received it.
I feel like you can also see that in the scene where in the funeral scene, because Helena doesn't like to be touched, but the few times where Otto does comfort her, he's like touching her hand, and Allison is trying to comfort her, but it's not helping, and she doesn't realize that because she doesn't know how to comfort her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're trying to make us hate Allison as much as possible, and she did a stupid decision by trying to talk to her daughter about the situation that she saw with her fucking Kristen Cole instead of comforting her son for his loss. Like, what a decision maker! Like, it's very like a rage bait or something. Doesn't feel right. And I think that if there is a goal, I think the only goal for the relationship between Kristen Cole and Allison is to make Daron somehow a bastard. If not, so it's just a waste of screen time. It's just nobody wants that.
I don't think that the timelines really match up. Considering how old Daron is likely to be.
Yeah.
And I think that, considering that, I don't think that there was any way. Like, it seems insinuated that this affair that's been going on between Kristen and Allison is fairly recent. And so I just don't think there would ever be a way. I don't think there'd ever be a way where that would happen. I think even Ryan would never go that far. I think the fandom would be like they'd burn him at the stake if they did that. But
yeah, but still possible because they're doing it and because as if it's normal, as if it's a routine for them. Like did as if it's have been happening for so long. So it doesn't look
I mean,
new.
it just doesn't make any sense for that to be the case, because then why would Daron be in Old Town? And so yeah, I just don't really understand why that would happen. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about. I mean, you know, I just don't think, considering that this is what Alicent was so mad at Rhaenyra for doing, I don't think that she would allow the same thing to happen. I think if she was going to get pregnant by Kristen, she would take the moon tea and not allow a son to be born through that. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think Daron is definitely Viserys's son. But yeah, I mean, in terms of why this whole Kristen Alicent thing has been introduced, I actually just think it's more of a way to sort of, like, Kristen is in particular is taking a bit more of a prominent role this season, and I think it's just maybe a plot device to sort of give him, I want to say intrigue, but it's not intriguing because nobody cares. But I guess they wanted to introduce some sort of relationship drama for him. I think, he's not gonna be around in that sort of setting for very long, considering that there's a war brewing. He's probably gonna have to go out and start fighting very soon. So I think we're sort of laying the seeds for something with that. And it also sort of comes back to Aemond as well, because we know that Aemond and Kristen have quite a close relationship, but I think that one of the things that might affect the relationship between Aemond and Kristen going forward is Kristen's own relationship with Aemond's mother, with Alicent. I think that will be a continued point of contention between them, because Kristen is very much inclined to defend Alicent, whereas Aemond is he's pissed off because he's been blamed for Luke's death, and I'm pretty sure that there will be at least some portion of blame put on him for blood and cheese happening from the Green side. So, I think from that side, I think Aemond is not feeling the love right now from his mother, and that's why he has to go to this brothel and lay with that lady, because she's giving him some semblance of motherly love and stuff. So I think Aemond and Kristen are going to clash over Alicent, and that relationship is going to be relevant because of things like that happening. That's sort of my theory, I guess.
Yeah.
So, with the last scene, did anybody else kind of interpret Alicent slapping Cole as an attempt to take control? And whenever he caught her hand, that's kind of like foreshadowing or a turning point that that's going to show that he's going to be basically running wild and taking control in general. After, the failing upward to be Hand of the King, and then Alicent having that discussion with Otto, and how Otto couldn't control Aegon. I mean, at the
I
end,
think
it was
it's
just
just
confusing to me in general, so I was just trying to kind of get a better understanding of it.
you know how she spoke to Otto about, oh, I sinned and all that. I think she did it just to not feel bad, or she did it just to, it's just mentally between herself. Like, she slapped him, so, oh, I tried to resist or something. I don't know. It's a stupid thing. But the whole situation is like nonsensical. Like, doesn't make any sense, really. They should have just thrown it out the window.
Yeah, I think for me, she lost control. With her hypocrisy, with I'm assuming the
Yeah,
feeling of addiction and being
yeah.
desired and being with somebody who's not decaying in front of you.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think she gave in
But
to
how
that.
he went from the queen to some random, like, random prostitute.
I know. I kind of feel like that whole scene with her and Cole, like her hitting him, it kind of goes back to when she sees like Aegon crying, and when she goes to her room, she sees Cole there, and she's like, "Well, this is like basically our fault. Like you were supposed to be watching, um, our family," and she's angry that like he's well. I guess she's kind of like not fully blaming him, but kind of like pinning the blame on him for her kids being in this pain they are in now. But that's just how I saw it as, because like I feel like they showed her walking off from Aegon crying for a reason, and then her like hitting Cole and stuff. But I do also agree with what Eamon One Eye said.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I think that's everything, isn't it?
Yeah,
Loretti?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap here. So, want to thank everybody for joining us and contributing to the talk here today. We'll be back again next Wednesday. We'll be back every Wednesday around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, next week will be for episode 3. Anybody want to add anything real quick before we log off here?
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed the conversations we had on here.
Good. I wish it
Yeah,
didn't
me
mute
too.
me as much though.
Yeah, hope
Yeah,
to
let's
see
go.
everybody back next week. And thanks MD and Shadow for helping host this thing.
Yeah,
No worries.
we'll be next week.
All right, thanks everyone. Just 4 more days.
So episode 3, Sunday night, 9 p.m. HBO. Be there.